Good mic work commentaries and Greg Morgan presents the Winged Eagle Podcast.
Good afternoon, happy Saturday to you, and happy holidays. Welcome to your final Winged Eagle Podcast of 2024. That's right, 1 week from today, we will be here, but we're going to be watching AEW World's End together. So this is going to be the final Saturday podcast of the year, and man, it's a big one. I've had a crazy week, a crazy month at work, and I was up real late kind of making notes for today, and I realized that my notes just tended to go on and on and on and on. There's a lot to get into, a lot of wrestling news, a lot of wrestling results, and a lot of future preparation for what's going to be happening to the wrestling industry in January, as a good portion of our wrestling consumption is moving over to streaming, with Raw going over to Netflix and AEW kicking off their deal with Max. So the wrestling landscape in terms of how we consume our wrestling is drastically about to change. So we're going to talk about the January 6th Raw, the January 1st Dynamite, the Christmas Day Dynamite. We've got World's End, we've got Royal Rumble, we've got so much stuff to get into in terms of WWE and AEW and WrestleMania plans and all that stuff, and it's just a mess. So I've got a lot of notes. They're organized. We're going to go through it bit by bit here and talk about what I've missed, because like I said, it was a really busy week. I was not here this past Monday to watch Raw with you guys. I did not catch Dynamite until later on that night. I was about 30 minutes behind watching the show, so I kind of had to catch up on that. And I've missed a lot of stuff this week, and you guys have not heard from me since last Saturday's Winged Eagle, right? I believe, right? So it's been kind of an empty week here on the channel. I apologize for that, but I'm about to have a bunch of days off and a bunch of free time coming up at the tail end of this year and the beginning of next year, so I will be catching up with a lot of the wrestling content during that time. But here today, we have got, like I said, tons to get into. We're going to talk about the big possible Punk and Roman Reigns match that may or may not be being planned for WrestleMania. We'll talk about what that means for everybody else, like Cody, like The Rock, like John Cena, like Logan Paul, like Seth Rollins. There's lots of pieces here heading into WrestleMania, and what's great about WrestleMania season this year is it feels like there are a lot of different potential, marquee matches they can do. And regardless of what they are or what they pick, there's really not a bad one in there. And a lot of those stories are already told. It's just a matter of what direction WWE decides to go in for that. And we're going to try to unpack a little bit of that here today. Like I said, we're also going to talk about the big details involving AEW's big deal on Max, starting to stream pay-per-views over there in 2025. Plus, Dynamites and Collisions are going to be simulcast over there starting in just a couple of weeks. So we'll discuss the details of that. We'll also talk about the Raw Netflix kickoff show that took place on Wednesday at the HQ. Some news on SmackDown. We have a death in wrestling. Rey Mysterio Sr. has passed away. WWE may have teased Penta on Monday Night Raw. There's also been talk of a big new Tribal Chief title, which makes me laugh my balls off. Last night's Ring of Honor Final Battle was a terrific show. Some interesting stuff went down there. We'll talk a little bit about this past week's Raw, a little bit about this past week's Dynamite, especially that Will Ospreay and Darby Allin match, which blew my fucking mind. I think that's definitely TV match of the year in 2024. And we'll also talk about last night's SmackDown. Now, last night's SmackDown was taped. This Monday's Raw is taped. So there's a lot of tape shows because of the holidays and things like that. So we'll try to tie all that together and talk about what we've seen, what's been taped, and what we're going to see as we close out the year of 2024. We'll take a look at the World's End card. And other than that, we'll kind of just shoot the shit, I guess, in the 2 hours that I have allotted to get this podcast done today, because I am back off to work as soon as this is done to wrap up what has been a hellacious but very profitable Christmas season for me. So anyway, thanks for being here. Welcome, guys. Good to see everybody in the chat here already. If you have not yet already, smash that like button for me. And I know most of you are subscribed, but if you're watching me and you're not subscribed, hook me up. You'll like it here, I promise. It's good to see Ajax Johnson back in the family. Welcome back, buddy. Joshua Aparicio is in the house. We got Rodrigo, Daniel Barry Sports as well. William Cullen, T85. We've got Spartan Sprinkles. We've got Nick Musser. Oh yeah, sorry, there is football on today, so some of you might be preoccupied with football. I understand, no big deal, but I do my podcasts on Saturdays, so during football season, some people have got their attention directed elsewhere, no problem. That's what on demand is for. By the way, if you're watching this on demand, drop a comment in the comments section because that helps drive the algorithms and stuff like that. And also like button, all that jazz. We've got Nick Musser in the house as well. Good to see Isaac David Brown. And we've got Sonic Plays Surge. We got Denny Downbad, Ian Dunn, and Mike Rouse. Not sure if I got you. Anybody else chiming in? Good to see you today. Happy Saturday. Thank you for being here. Got a feeling we're going to have a light audience, but that's okay because there's a lot to catch up on, and you might want to watch this in multiple chunks because there's a lot to get into. And it's also Christmas week. Merry Christmas to everyone. Happy holidays. I hope you have a tremendous week this week, regardless of what you are doing or what you celebrate or family or friends or whatever that may be. I hope you have some time off from work, and I hope you have some enjoyment this week. That's what I wish for each and every one of you, is some enjoyment and some rest and relaxation. That's what this time of year is about. You guys are going to see me tomorrow night. Get this, throwing you a curveball for tomorrow's watch along. In Your House, Rock Bottom, 1998. I had a bitch of a time. It was a couple nights ago. I was sitting there deciding after a long night at work, I'm like, I got to put up a watch along link for Sunday. And I'm like, all right, let's do a Starrcade. And I'm looking at the ones we haven't done, and none of them were really sticking out to me. You know, a lot of those lethal lotteries are just hodgepodge tag matches, and that can just get redundant. And then 94 and 95 kind of sucked. 1996 is no picnic. We've done 97 and 98. And 99 as well is another one that I thought about, but that show is widely regarded as one of the worst Starrcades and pay-per-views in history. So I could not decide on which Starrcade to do. None of the remaining Armageddons look good to me either. I don't give a shit about Armageddon 03 or 04 or even 08 when Jeff Hardy won the title. I don't care about those. So I was stumped. I'm like, what do I do? What do we do? And then finally, I was thinking of other December pay-per-views. Rock Bottom looked like a pretty decent card, so we're going to have fun and watch that tomorrow. And since I could not decide which Starrcade to do, over on the channel in the community tab, there's a poll open right now to everyone, not just members, to pick which Starrcade we're going to do a week from tomorrow. I think the choices are 94, 95, 96, or 99. I can already tell 99 is going to win. So if you don't want to see 1999, go over to the community tab, vote for something else. I'll give it another day or two, and whichever pay-per-view wins, which I'm certain it's going to be Starrcade 1999, because you guys are fucking masochists. I will post a link to that, and we will be watching that 1 week from tomorrow. But tomorrow, it will be In Your House, Rock Bottom, so join us for that. The link is already up. There will not be a Raw watch-along this Monday because I am going to work again, and also Raw is taped. I read the spoilers. Nothing crazy took place on the show, but something very, 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 very disappointing took place on the show, and I'm not going to spoil too much for you except one thing. So if you don't want to hear this, just go la 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 la. Natalya is not going to win the Intercontinental Championship. That's the spoiler that I'm going to give you, because when I read what happened, I was like, that sucks. She was my pick. I really wanted her to be the first winner of the Intercontinental Championship, but now I think we know who it will be. But that's as far as the spoilers will go in this episode, so don't worry about any more of those happening to you. Other than that, I think we should jump into some wrestling news. Before I do, let me say hello to JBoba28, who's dropping $5 in the chat. Thank you for that, my friend. Happy holidays, Greg. Would you rather have Cena chasing his 17th world title or Punk vs. Roman be the night one main event? We're going to talk a lot about that, and that's coming up right now. That's about what we're going to get into here. So I don't know what I'd rather have. You know, John Cena, I can see lots of different possibilities for him. I don't need him to necessarily win the title at WrestleMania. It's not like that's something that's been eluding him. So yes, it's going to be Cena's last WrestleMania, but as long as Cena does something important and memorable is all I really need there. I want John Cena to win his 17th world title. I don't have too much of a care about where he wins it, because we've already seen John Cena win the title at WrestleMania. Let me think. I count 78 times. Is that right? It might be 79. I forgot. But we've seen that happen a lot. As a fan, I don't need that. John Cena can win the title. Great. Break Ric Flair's stupid imaginary record. I'm ready for that. I just don't need it to be at WrestleMania. If it is, fine, but I don't care. So I think Punk and Roman might be a little bit more fun, which is a good segue into our top story this week. WWE apparently might be planning a CM Punk Roman Reigns WrestleMania match based on how hot their pairing was during the War Games stuff. The fans were really into that. There seems to be a lot of interest in a potential CM Punk and Roman Reigns match, especially when you kind of sew in a little bit of that reality where Roman was one of the talents in WWE that pushed back a little bit on Punk coming back to the company, didn't really want him to. So a lot of fans are aware of that. Plus, Punk, on his way out the door back in 2014, worked with Roman a couple of weeks before he left. Then when he dropped all the dirt on the Colt Cabana podcast, he talked about Roman and making him look strong and things like that. So there's just always been something there between those guys. And this could be a really, really interesting match if they had it, if they wind up doing this. So here's what Fightful Select had to say about this, I believe, yesterday. And I quote, Fightful Select's Sean Ross Sapp heard via WWE sources that Punk vs. Roman at next year's Mania has been heavily discussed. They'd heard a number of weeks ago that this wasn't particularly the plan, but had been adjusted as of late. We're told that CM Punk had also hoped for the match. I bet he does. Roman Reigns and CM Punk. I'm sorry, I'm not going to read that. That's just nonsense. A number of months later, Punk did a post. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not going to read that either. We know about all that. Let's just finish up here. We're told that this is a drastically different direction than what had been planned for both talents even a couple of months ago, none of which involved The Rock. It was noted to us that if Rock informs WWE of involvement in WrestleMania, much of the card could change, including this. So that last sentence really pisses me off. I've been venting a lot about that lately when it comes to The Rock. WrestleMania is too important to us fans for Rock to be wishy-washy on shit. He needs to decide yay or nay. Now, if behind the scenes these decisions are already made and set in stone and they're just fucking with us, fine, I don't care. But if the real story there is WWE is trying to plan WrestleMania and have plans in place, but they also have to have plans in place in case The Rock decides to jump in, that is crazy to me. That is absolutely insane. We saw enough of that political jockeying in January and February of this year, heading into WrestleMania 40 with the whole Cody thing, and then finally Triple H and WWE looked like they got what they wanted, and they got the Cody and Roman match. So it doesn't sound like Rock's going to come in and just dictate what he wants to do, but if he wants to work Mania, WWE wants to have him there. So like I've said a million times, my hope is that WWE and The Rock already know whether or not Rock is going to work WrestleMania, and they're just kind of keeping it up in the air with the public is what I'm hoping the deal is. But if Rock is really jerking them around, that's really messed up. They shouldn't have to sit around and wait for him to decide to work WrestleMania or not. He just needs to say yay or nay. So hopefully that's the case. So if Rock is working WrestleMania and he's not working with Roman, the only person Rock can work with is Cody. Because Rock and Cody had that moment on Raw after WrestleMania this year where something was exchanged and some sort of a handshake and, I don't know, car keys or a whisper or whatever was going on there. And then Rock came out at Bad Blood and made some hand gesture. So it sounds like Rock and Cody could be the plan. And if that's the plan, then you can do Punk and Roman, and then you can do John Cena and somebody else. Maybe John Cena can face Gunther, go after the World Championship, or maybe John Cena can face the recently unretired Logan Paul, who retired a couple of weeks ago on his podcast, unretired on Wednesday during the Netflix kickoff thing. And a lot of people have said that Cena and Logan could be the Mania match. And it could be. I'd actually be all right with that. A lot of fans want to see Cena go up against a legend or somebody he has history with. And I understand that totally. But Cena and Logan, in terms of the drawing power, there's a movie star and then Logan, who's whatever he is. I think the mainstream would pick up on that a lot, maybe, and that would be a lot of extra eyeballs. So I feel like it could be Cody versus Rock, Punk versus Roman, and Cena versus Logan Paul. Or it could be Cena versus Cody. At some point, I would like to see Cena versus Cody, but I think if that happens, Cody needs to win. So I can't see Cena beating Cody for the title unless they do a program. Unless Cena beats Cody for the title, and then in Cena's maybe retirement match or final match as champion, he loses the title back to Cody. And that's your passing of the torch moment. Closest we've come in the history of the business to actually have one guy give the baton to the other and leave for real. Hogan gave the baton to Warrior, but he took the baton back a year later. A lot of guys have done the same thing. this would be the first time that a torch was passed, like for real. And they have a chance to do that with Cody and Cena in 2025 if they want. So it just depends on where those matches would happen. And you could also think about CM Punk versus Seth Rollins. Now, I know we're getting that match on January 6th on Netflix, which is going to be great. But do you think, based on the personal issue between these two, that we're going to have one CM Punk and Seth Rollins match and that's it? You know, what if the winner of the January 6th match then wins the World Heavyweight Championship and then drops it to the loser of the January 6th match? So maybe Punk beats Rollins on January 6th. Then Punk wins the world title from Gunther at the Royal Rumble. And then he goes into WrestleMania and drops it to Seth Rollins. You know, so I believe that if CM Punk is going to main event of WrestleMania, it's going to have to be for a championship. How are you going to main event a WrestleMania when you got 2 world titles and you're not champion? It's just going to have to be one of those things. And Punk said that much in his promo. I mean, maybe they're going to have to win the Rumble or I'm going to have to win the Chamber. So he knows that. He understands that. So I think that Punk winning the title from Gunther could be a lot of fun. And I also think that no matter what Punk does, if WWE is going to give CM Punk a WrestleMania main event, I kind of think he needs to lose. So what if Punk beats Gunther for the championship at Royal Rumble, and then Roman wins the Rumble and challenges Punk for the World Heavyweight Championship? Because when it comes to the World Heavyweight Championship, if WWE ever wants to remove the stigma that this is a secondary title, then they need to book it like they used to book the big gold. Remember when WWE had the WWE Undisputed title, or that O2 belt, that ugly belt, and the big gold? Remember what they did? They would flop. They would change which belt was the most important. They would draft one champion to Raw, then to SmackDown. They would always switch it up, where both championships had their chances to main event more than one WrestleMania. How wild is it that the WCW World title main evented WrestleMania 20 in Madison Square Garden? You know, that is the 20th anniversary of WrestleMania, and the championship that's on the line in the main event isn't even your championship. It's a belt that was kind of absorbed from your competition. That is crazy to me. And that was WWE's way of equalizing those two championships, because the world title was introduced in 2002. The resurrected WCW title was just basically given to Triple H. So that belt was in danger of being a secondary title as well. But WWE put it on equal footing, where I think it was WrestleMania 20 and 21, back-to-back years, that belt was in the main event. And then I think at 19, it was the Undisputed title. And 22, it was the WWE, and 23 might have been as well. Yeah, with Shawn and Cena. So it kind of, the belts changed importance from time to time. There was always one of the 2 world titles that was viewed as the bigger belt. Sometimes it was the WWE, sometimes it was the big gold. So if WWE wants their current rendition of the World Heavyweight Championship to be considered by fans as an equal championship to the WWE Undisputed title, a belt that technically you could trace the lineage back 60 years, that's going to be the only way to really do that, is to book it and present it like it's a big deal and put major names on it. Roman Reigns shouldn't just be focused on winning one belt and one belt only. There's a brand new championship out there that Roman nor Cena has ever held. So if one of those guys puts their name on that title lineage, and you start having that World Heavyweight Championship with names like Cena and Roman and perhaps CM Punk, think about those 3 names alone, what that would do to build the lineage, the early lineage. Because so far it's just been Rollins and Priest and Gunther. Rollins, of course, is a made Hall of Famer. Will go down as being a legend. Priest and Gunther will too, but they're not there yet. So sticking a Roman on there, sticking a Cena on there, a Punk on there, and I really don't want to say this name, but sticking a Goldberg on there. Nope. Nope. I don't even want to say that, because we know we're going to see Goldberg this year too, or next year. So I think that now that we've seen this transfer window bullshit, we've got the Raw Netflix show coming up, and it looks like the talent is starting to behave more like they did back in the day, because when they had 2 world championships, they weren't exclusive to either show, or maybe they were. Sometimes they were, sometimes they weren't. So you could just start seeing champions moving around and stuff and doing all the talent is just kind of mixed for this new media rights deal, because, you know, Netflix is going to want the stars. So WWE is going to have to figure out how to, you know, figure that out with the roster and how to place everybody, and how, of course, most importantly, how you explain it to the fans. But I think that the World Heavyweight Championship could have a major match this year, and it has yet to main event a WrestleMania, right? Because did it? No, it didn't. Gunther and who the fuck? Oh yeah, it opened the show last year. It was Rollins and McIntyre. That's right. And McIntyre won and then got screwed, right? So McIntyre is also on the list. I forgot he's technically a former World Heavyweight Champion. So maybe this year that belt main events night 1. And maybe that could be Roman Reigns and CM Punk for the World Heavyweight Championship on night 1. And Cody Rhodes versus The Rock on night 2. Maybe. Hit me with all your WrestleMania ideas. The cool thing about WrestleMania this year and the brilliance of it is that all of these matches that we kind of tossed out, Cody Rock, Roman Punk, or Cody Rock, Roman Punk, Rock Roman, Cena Logan, Cena Cody, Punk Rollins, Punk Cena, Punk Rock. You know, you could do all sorts of stuff. You could throw some triple threats in there. Who knows what you could do, but all of those potential combinations work, don't they? Like, they all sound pretty appealing. So that's a good place to be if you're WWE, in that driver's seat heading into WrestleMania, and you got this creative that you're trying to hammer out. You're in a situation where if we go down this path, that's good. This path is good. This path is good. So it's just a matter of maybe choosing the best path. That's all they really got to do here. And I think they're going to have a pretty successful WrestleMania, provided politics doesn't play any role in fucking it up, kind of like it did last year. So hopefully Rock will not play any games this year, because I don't have any patience for this bullshit with this guy. I like The Rock a lot. I welcome him into any WrestleMania season. He's welcome in my wrestling universe anytime he wants to be there. I've seen him in person since he very first started, when he was a little piece of shit. But I don't like the games that he's playing, and I don't like that he strings WWE and the fans along. That's assuming any of this is legit. And if he's really not sure yet on December 21st whether or not he's going to work WrestleMania or not, then I think WWE needs to make plans without him. Screw this crap. You know? So I just want Rock to know one way or the other. Is he doing it or is he not doing it? Time will tell. Switching gears here to AEW. This is some exciting news. So we know AEW has got their new media rights deal, and that did include a streaming deal with Max. And we knew going into this that, because they had already announced it, that Dynamite and Collision was going to be simulcast on Max alongside the TNT and TBS shows, respectively. And that was great news to me, because finally we can end the stupid ratings discourse, because there's not going to be a way to effectively, track your ratings now. I've always said for years that ratings are BS now, because who the fuck watches cable? When I'm watching Dynamite, I'm watching it on a DVR or a stream or YouTube clips or something like that. My rating is not counted. If I watch Dynamite, I'm not counted in that 600,000 people or whatever. Neither are a lot of you in the chat either. So same goes with Raw. Same goes with WWE. 1.3 million people watch Raw this week. A fuck of a lot more people watch it than that. 1.4 million people watched on cable. What about the other 1.4 million that watched on the internet like I did? So you got to think about all that too. And I think it's finally time that streaming became just more of the norm. And now that you're going to simulcast these shows, when the ratings come out, I would expect the ratings to be lower now on TNT and TBS. I'm not sure how that works with them. If they're okay with these numbers, they're paying for a television product that they know is going to deliver them lower ratings than before. So I don't know how these deals work or how they're being okay with that, but you would assume that that's going to take more eyeballs off TNT, off TBS, because I'll be damned if I'm going to watch it on TNT and TBS, because if you're watching it on Max, I'm assuming, I could be wrong, I'm assuming that during the picture-in-picture or during the commercials, you don't get that, right? You get to continue watching the show. And that's one great thing that's going to, about Raw on Netflix on January 6th, is they can load up the show as big as they want. There's no fucking commercials. It's a pay-per-view. Raws are pay-per-views now. There's probably going to be some ad incorporation there in some way that we're not aware of yet, but commercials as we know them on cable TV will not be that way on Raw on Netflix, I don't think. And it certainly probably won't be that way either on Max. So that's going to be exciting. And I'm excited to watch Raw, Dynamite and Collision on Max. And here is a press release that from AEW explaining a little bit of these new details since the streaming begins on January 1st. And I quote, starting Wednesday, January 1st, Warner Brothers Discovery's networks and platforms will remain the exclusive home of Dynamite and AEW Collision, and will also, for the first time, stream those programs live for Max subscribers in the United States. All live AEW programming airing on Warner Brothers Discovery's networks will also be available to stream on Max on demand after their live broadcast. So, okay, to stream on Max and on demand. Okay, because I knew they were simulcasting, but you can also watch them on demand after the fact. Additionally, Dynamite, Collision, and Rampage and all AEW pay-per-view library content through the end of 2024, representing more than 700 hours of action, will be made available on Max on a rolling basis, so probably just a little bit at a time. At launch, all AEW Dynamite episodes and pay-per-views from the company's inaugural 2019 year will be available, as well as more than 2 months of the most recent AEW programming that aired across WBD's networks. As previously announced, AEW and WBD will also collaborate to distribute AEW live pay-per-view events on Max, with all marketing and promotions of those pay-per-view events exclusively centered on Max. Whew. AEW pay-per-view distribution on Max will begin later in 2025, with additional information and pricing to be shared in the coming months. So the pay-per-views are going to be moving to Max, just not yet. So on January 1st, we're going to get our first chunk of the video library, a lot of it from 2019, and a lot of recent stuff, and everything in between, they're going to be releasing on a rolling basis. Every couple of weeks, you'll probably get another chunk, then another chunk, then another chunk. WWE Network, I think, did something similar when they launched. But the pay-per-views moving over there, it's going to be later this year. They don't have a date on that yet. I really hope it's earlier than summer. I don't want to have to pay 6 more AEW pay-per-views at $50 a pop. It's been 5 or 6 years of that shit. It's time to move on. But it does sound like there is going to be additional information and pricing. So I've signed up for the top tier of Max, but I don't know if that's going to get me the AEW pay-per-views for free. There might be an additional or discounted price. So if you have to pay an extra $15 or something like that for the pay-per-views, that would be reasonable. I'm hoping it's not 25 or 30. I think if you're a Max subscriber, the most you should really have to pay would be 10 to $15 to try to keep themselves in somewhat, competition to WWE, because WWE's pay-per-views are basically free with the subscription. So if AEW is going to charge on top of the subscription, then they need to not make that charge too crazy, because that's, fans aren't going to want to pay that. So either way, the library and all of the past Dynamites and pay-per-views being located on Max now, found there, you can stream everything there. That's huge. That's what they've really needed for the past couple of years now, and they got that done. I mean, that's important, for AEW, especially with some of the issues they've had, recently. The fact that Warner Brothers Discovery has still been very much happy with them and where they are landing on cable every night that they're on there, to where there was never really any danger of them re-upping the media rights deal. It was just a matter of the details, the finances, and getting some streaming done. And with the Max deal that covers all of their bases, from a fan's perspective, that's what we wanted. We wanted the availability to stream, and we wanted to be able to access their library. And now that's going to start in January. That's huge and helpful. So especially if people are trying to get in AEW now and the product's not that great, go watch some of the shit from a couple of years ago. You'll love it or whatever. So the fact that that's there now, you could create new fans, and now that you just have a spot where this stuff can be found and you don't have to search too hard for it. So that's really, I think, helpful for AEW. That's a good deal, and I'm really ready for that to begin, because that's just going to be incredibly convenient to be able to stream everything on Max. And hopefully, by the summertime, the entire video library will be available and accessible by then. And hopefully by then, all of the pay-per-views will be there as well. And that's where we can start watching them. So I don't have to pay YouTube $50 to watch them. Also, AEW, or I should say Tony Khan, he made Variety's deal makers list in a report that valued AEW at about $2 billion, making it the third highest combat sports promotion in the world. That's not bad for a mud show. Who would have thought mud shows could be so popular? I wonder if mud shows are hiring, because $2 billion, that's awesome. So there's a lot of people, a lot of very, very, very angry young men living with their mom, working the checkout counter at Ross, that doubt this number, because why wouldn't they? It's a number that they don't like. It's something positive about a company that they spend 90% of their life hating. So naturally, they're going to question that, because they know better than we do, of course, right? Yeah, the internet was very upset at that number. Very, very, very mad. Nothing better to do. It's not like it's the holidays or anything. It's not like you could be out shopping for your loved ones or spending time with your loved ones or relaxing or watching some football. No, you got to be bloodshot, cross-eyed, mouth-drooling, enraged over a fucking number in a Variety article. That's our wrestling community for you, folks. Oh, my God. That X app, that's a crazy place over there, man. Here is some more fun stuff. WWE held their Raw Netflix kickoff show at WWE headquarters on Wednesday. This is a big live thing that they did right in the entranceway there, right at the front door, because this new facility is incredible. The little bit that we've seen of it, it's humongous. So they got fans there. They got a stage set up. They even have like a little Titantron on an entranceway. So stupid. And it was loaded with talent. Everybody was there making appearances. I think it was hosted by Michael Cole. Triple H was there, gotten in the middle of Seth Rollins and CM Punk, jaw-jacking, hyping up their January 6th match. We saw Gunther, heard from Gunther. We heard from Paul Heyman and the Bloodline. Logan Paul was there, a very much not retired Logan Paul. We talked about him earlier on, and the possibility that he could face John Cena at WrestleMania. We also saw Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley, and their match was made official. This past week on Raw, Rhea did say that she was the number one contender, but she didn't say when the match was going to be. We assumed it would be January 6th, but they didn't say anything about it until the kickoff show on Wednesday. So that's where that match was made official. Liv Morgan defending her title against Rhea Ripley on January 6th. And we were interrupted by Kevin Owens, who, by the way, has the best moveset. Did you see him say that? Walking straight into the camera, just looks right in the camera. He goes, I have the best moveset. I love that because, of course, CM Punk got a little stick up his butt when that dumbass Pete Rosenberg on the SNME post-show or whatever said moveset. And he's like, don't say moveset. It's internet nerdy to say moveset. And just this condescending, fucking dismissive way. And then you wonder why people don't like CM Punk. It's because of shit like that. And so he's like, don't say moveset. But the real reason Punk said that is because Hangman Page tweeted out the word moveset when referencing Logan Paul's retirement. He said, next time you give my moveset to someone, make sure they don't suck. So CM Punk saw moveset, then said, that's a term for nerds. I say moveset all the time. Correct me if I'm wrong, isn't a moveset a set of moves? I'm just trying to define the word in reverse. So you take the word set and move. It must be a move set, must be a set of moves. I don't get what's wrong with that. I understand it's a video game term, right? Move set, I think, originated there. But if you're a wrestler, you got a set of moves, you got a move set or a repertoire or an arsenal. The fact that Punk went out of his way to be upset about that word was pretty funny to me. But at the same time, we all have pet peeves. I've got dumb ones. So I think that it probably had more to do with Hangman Page and Punk, Punk basically tapping into this belief that AEW fans and wrestlers are just internet nerds and marks. These are internet nerds and marks, calling other people internet nerds and marks. That is all the internet is. That's all the internet wrestling community is. You know how many times I've been called a mark? Me, twice the age of some little piece of shit, in his on his laptop, his $400 laptop, typing out all this angry shit. You're just a mark. I'm like, what do you think you are? So, not one? I don't get it. So I think the younger you are, the more you think Mark is an insult. And I expect more from CM Punk than to kind of tap into that. But it was funny because I like that CM Punk said it because it's juicy. He said it because Hangman Page said it. And then Kevin Owens kind of snapped back. I got the best moveset. I love that stuff, because it's all little personal, little jabs and all that stuff. Kevin Owens doesn't sweat CM Punk. At some point, I think Punk and Owens might have a fun program in WWE, especially if Kevin Owens wins that championship. And of course, as we know, Kevin Owens, the reason he was at that Netflix kickoff was because he is currently the uncrowned WWE champion, and he's carrying around the Winged Eagle title that he stole from Cody Rhodes after Saturday night's main event went off the air when he hit Cody with the package pile driver in this crazy post-match segment that we didn't even see. We watched it together, and we did a post-show review, and we were kind of reading about it in the chat that something was going on. And we watched the footage, and you see Owens hit a package pile driver and hit it well on Cody. He's stretchered out. Triple H even runs out there and is like pushing and shoving on Owens. This was all great. Owens grabs the Winged Eagle, and he walks off with it feeling like he got screwed, and he's vowing to not give up the Winged Eagle until he gets what he wants. And I like that. I like that Owens is walking around with that belt. And I still think there is a very good chance he wins the title. And I would love it, love it, love it, love it if whenever we get another match between Cody and Kevin Owens, maybe at the Royal Rumble, The Rock comes out and screws Cody. I would love it. And then Owens does win the title, which would technically, in a weird way, sort of maybe 20% make my Saturday night's main event prediction correct. I wanted Owens to win the title. I wanted him to win and steal the Winged Eagle just like Andre stole it from Hogan, and he kind of did. And if he winds up holding that Winged Eagle title on his shoulder until he wins the real belt, then it kind of is like he's been champion the whole time. So maybe I wasn't as wrong as I thought I was going to be. But we're going to talk about SmackDown more in just a second. But the Raw stuff, the Netflix kickoff, looked very, very fun from the headquarters, and I'm looking forward to that January 6th show. Yes, we are going to be watching that together. It is in LA. I thought about going, but I kind of just want to watch it with you guys. So I'm trying to go to WrestleMania, so I don't need to go up to the Intuit Dome for this. I'm going to sit right here, down here in the whale's vagina, and watch it more comfortably in my home with you guys. So January 6th, we will be here for a watch along, and I will post a link to that watch along very soon. Keep a lookout for it. Speaking of Raw this past week on Raw, WWE ran a vignette that might have teased the debut of Penta. It was just a little graphic with like a zero with a line through it, right? And the back of Penta's gear has got the O with like the claw marks, right? It's similar. And as we know, Rey Fenix is still working out his issues with AEW. And a lot of fans, and myself included, thought that WWE might just sit on Penta for 8 months. It's not like Rey's got 4 years left. He's got like another 8 months. Maybe something can be worked out early, he can get out early, and they can debut together. But I'm starting to like this idea of debuting them separately, because I think as a fan, I like the idea of Penta and Fenix being brothers in the WWE, just being brothers that are wrestlers instead of being a tag team. Now, I'm certain that the Lucha Bros will win no less than 4 WWE Tag Team Championships in their careers, but I would like them to be primarily singles wrestlers who occasionally come together as a tag team. And because they're both really fun and have very unique and different wrestling single styles from each other, it's what makes them a great tag team. And I think they are both excellent as single stars. So Penta coming in first, getting rolling in the company, whether he hits NXT first or goes right to the main roster. Sounds like it's going to the main roster since this aired on Raw. And if he shows up maybe on January 6th and they get Penta moving, and then at some point, down the road later this summer, he gets in some sort of a feud and he needs some backup, and then out comes Rey Fenix to make the save, and now Phoenix is there. It would be a good way to introduce him, kind of how Edge and Christian came in. It was like the same thing. Edge was there for a few months, and then Christian Cage randomly showed up. And they could kind of do the same thing with Penta there, to where you could establish them both as single stars, but they could come together at a tag team and win championships anytime they want. I like that. So I don't know who else this would be. Does anybody have any guesses who that would be other than Penta? I feel like it's got to be Penta. I feel like if it's not Penta, fans are going to be not happy. So it better be Penta. And I like that. Really excited to see Pentagon in WWE whenever that finally goes down. And bringing him in and starting him and getting him rolling now as a singles, I think could benefit Rey Fenix when he's ready to come in, because Penta will have already been there, gotten rolling, gotten his feet wet a bit, and might help ease the transition for Rey Fenix as he ventures into new territory as well. So that's very exciting, and I'm hoping that they just bust this out on January 6th. Why wait? Why don't run these vignettes until past WrestleMania? Debut them right on J6, man. I'm into that. Got some sad news I'll hit you with next. Rey Mysterio Sr. passed away at age 66, I believe yesterday or the day before. Rey Mysterio Sr. is the shoot uncle of Rey Mysterio and the great uncle of Dominic. He trained Rey Mysterio and gave Rey Mysterio his name and his mask in 1991, and that's when Rey started wrestling under the name Rey Mysterio Jr. I still call Rey Mysterio Jr. just in conversation because it's just still sticks. It's kind of like how WWF stuck around for all those years with me. But I've always felt like Rey Mysterio was Rey Mysterio Jr., and I've always loved that story. And it's a shame about Senior passing away, because 66 is quite young. So many of those luchadors get started so early because he was wrestling in the 70s. He got to start in like 1975 or 1976, which would have made him like under 18 or something at the time, which is crazy. He trained to initially become a boxer, but I guess he lost a lot of his like boxing punching power, and then transitioned into pro wrestling and lucha libre, became a star, opened up a wrestling school, became a trainer, and that's how Rey Mysterio Jr. became Rey Mysterio Jr. So Rey and Dominic both had some nice social media posts the other day tributing Senior, and he was a major legend in Mexico, and that's a very sad loss for pro wrestling and for Mexican wrestling. Rest in peace, Rey Mysterio Sr. Did you guys hear the story of the, well, transition from sad to stupid? We saw, or there was a little bit of a rumbling, I don't know who it was. It might have been that drunk, cross-eyed idiot who runs Ringside News. Talk of WWE maybe introducing a Tribal Chief Championship belt. Yeah, no, we can't do that. So that would be absolutely idiotic. Call me crazy. I just think having a championship belt dedicated to one family isn't necessary, especially when you already have that. That's what the Ufalafa is. The Ufalafa is the championship. That's the Tribal Chief Championship. Yes, I know it's the Ulafala, but LA Knight called it the Ufalafa, and now I want that to be the name of it. So that's what that is. If they want to do some stupid ass segment on TV where you trade in the Ufalafa for a belt, you could, but Jesus Christ, man, Rock got that stupid belt last year at the Hall of Fame. And right now, we're currently in the process of crowning United States champion and Intercontinental champion for the women. So that's 5 new belts this year if you count those stupid ass crown jewel green things. So all this complaining about AEW having championships, they ain't any worse than WWE. WWE does this shit too. Stupid, too many, excessive championship belts where everybody has a championship belt. You get a belt and you get a belt and you get a belt. It's so many. So if they bring in this Tribal Chief Championship, I don't know. The only way I could think that would make any kind of sense is if you do Rock and Roman at WrestleMania. If you do Rock and Roman, then each man has their respective championship belts. Rock with the Brahma Bull, Muhammad Ali thing, and then Roman has got his Tribal Chief Championship. And even though neither one of those men are world champions, this is going to be maybe a belt unification. So maybe each guy has their belt, but the Ulafala is the prize that they win when it's over. So the winner gets both championships and the Ulafala, but going forward after that match, you only see them with the Ulafala. So if Roman wins, he just carries that. And then you never see that Rock belt or the Tribal Chief title again. Maybe for a Rock and Roman match, a Tribal Chief Championship belt to be a prop in the story, I could let that slide. But creating this championship that's like only going to be defended against bloodline family members, do we need that? No, especially when you already have the Ulivala. So I would just leave it as it is, unless they want to introduce this championship to really decorate this Roman Reigns and Rock match that will be for the true head of the table, the true head of the family. That would be like Rock kind of passing the torch to Roman, sort of, assuming these two guys get along in real life. I hope they do. So that's kind of a dumb idea, but I could see it working if they are going to plan a Rock and Roman Reigns match. That's really the only way I see that belt being a possibility, but let's just not do it at all. That would be best, I think. Let me see. Did I talk about SmackDown? SmackDown is officially moving to 3 hours. They made that announcement and everybody was going nuts about it the other day, but I thought we already knew that. So maybe it wasn't official. Maybe it was believed that SmackDown's going to move to 3 hours beginning in January when Raw leaves USA. And it has been made official. January 3rd will be the official start date for 3 hour SmackDowns every Friday night. And now we have 3 hour Raws on Netflix every Monday night. And Dynamite and Collision, and then a partridge in a pear tree. So much wrestling. Man, we had a good one last night. Ring of Honor Final Battle. Unfortunately, I did not see the show. I was working, but I saw a bunch of highlights. It looked to be like a really fun show. Of course, AEW is running the Hammerstein Ballroom, or as Chris Jericho calls it, the Hammerstein Ballroom in New York City. And they're running Ring of Honor there. They ran Ring of Honor there last night for Final Battle. And tomorrow, they're taping their Christmas shows for Dynamite and Collision, I believe. So I can't wait to talk to you about what they've got planned for Christmas Day Dynamite at Hammerstein. It's nuts. But before we get to that, we had Final Battle last night. And one of the big matches was not the main event. It was the Ring of Honor World Championship. Chris Jericho defending against Matt Cardona. And Chris Jericho wound up winning the match, retaining the championship. A lot of post-match activity with the Learning Tree getting involved, and that's when we saw the return of Bandito. He was rumored to be in town, rumored to be showing up here. He did. He came out to attack Jericho's crew, and as soon as he hit the ring, after all this time off, first thing he does is he gets up to the top rope and delivers a missile dropkick, I think to Brian Keith, and landed right on the back of his head and did not get up. And he really struggled. You could tell he rang his bell. I have not yet seen an injury report on him. I don't know if he was concussed or not, but it definitely looked like he got a concussion there. So that really sucks if that's true, because he's been on the shelf for a while and he immediately comes back and concusses himself. Hopefully he's okay. Hopefully this will not set back his return any. Because that's a huge bummer. I've been excited for Bandito to come back, although him being sucked into the Jericho vortex isn't something I was expecting or wanting or needing. I was hoping that Bandito would come back and do, I don't know, anything else other than work with Jericho, but that's what he's doing apparently. So all the best to Bandito. Hopefully he didn't fuck himself up too bad on that missile dropkick. The main event, I guess, was a big disappointment to many. Athena, who's been the champion for like 2 years now, defending against Billy Starks, and the whole entire world that thought that Billy Starks was going to win here. And she didn't. Athena got the win, and holy shit, what a finish. I wasn't so mad about who won. I was more amazed by how perfect that finish was. My God, Athena has really perfected, I don't even know what it's called, but that top rope spinning stunner finisher that she has. I always thought that that's just like a high-risk move. You only have probably like a 20% payoff rate on that to where it actually looks good. And the way the way she hits that thing now is a thing of beauty. And I got no problem with her pulling the old Asuka in NXT deal and just running through everybody. Oh, who's she going to beat now? There's no one left to face. Who cares? You're making somebody into like this legend with this title run. She might retire. She might leave as a forever champion before coming to the main roster in AEW, which she should have been there the whole time. But she's, run herself up here, this huge run in Ring of Honor. And if you get her to AEW next year and you can book like Athena and Mercedes for All In or something, I really have no issue with it. So I understand the mentality when this happens. This is the same thing that happened with Asuka and with some other champions in NXT and WWE. If they've been champion a long time and you think they're finally going to lose and then they don't. And then, of course, since the fans are surprised, they automatically assume that that's just the wrong creative decision. These things don't bother me. I never tend to be mad when someone wins who everybody thought was going to lose. I don't get upset. That's just bullshit. What are they doing? This is bullshit. I'm like, just because you were surprised doesn't mean it's bullshit. And I like it when you don't make the game-winning shot in Game 7. Because life isn't always a fucking fairy tale. I've said that a lot. The same fans who complain about Athena retaining are the same ones that say they want their wrestling to be realistic. And you could argue that a 2-year run is unrealistic, sure, but in one match, anybody can win. And so sometimes, the story might be there, but you don't win. Back in 2001, just weeks after 9/11, after the Twin Towers came crashing down, the Yankees were in the World Series. If there was ever a time for the Yankees to win the World Series, people who are not Yankees fans, people in Boston wearing Yankee hats, for fuck's sake, remember that? If there was ever a time for the Yankees to win and just really bring the country together after an unspeakable tragedy. But what happened? They lost. Diamondbacks beat them in 7. And there's lots of examples like that. So sometimes you just don't make the shot. Sometimes if you're fighting and you've dedicated your fight to your mom, you get your ass kicked. That's life. People don't get what they deserve. They get what they get. And so I don't really freak out when decisions like that are made. Sometimes there can be some victories and losses that you're like, what are they doing? Sure, it's not like those type of matches don't exist at all. I just think that every time people are surprised, they act like the booking was wrong. No, you were just surprised. That's all. Not a big deal. Athena retains, and I like Athena. I like Billy Starks. It would have been a great feather in her cap to beat Athena. Of course it would. Who's to say she still can't? So I don't think it was really that big of a deal. I think overall, Ring of Honor Final Battle looked like a fun show. We also saw the return of Danhausen, who finally showed back up. He got involved in that male models thing or whatever. And a cool match. Sammy Guevara and Dustin Rhodes beat the Righteous in a Texas bull rope match. Tons of good stuff on the show. And just the venue setting of Hammerstein is just a great look. I just love the way the arena looks. Or the ballroom looks, I should say. And has anybody ever been there? Is that located like ground level, or is that like up in a skyscraper? The ballroom. I'm not even sure. So because I know Manhattan Center, there was like several flights of stairs up to get up there. So I'm not sure about old Hammerstein ballroom, but it looked like it was a super fun show last night for Ring of Honor. And the last little tidbit I have in my notes here. I just mentioned it because it absolutely tickled me. Have you guys seen Stephen Flo, this indie wrestler who has got a Pearl Jam gimmick, and his name is Stephen Flo? And they've even taken the Even Flow song and replaced the lyrics with his name. Stephen Flo, Stephen Flo, Stephen Flo. It's hilarious. And he had an interview that dropped today on Fightful with Sean Ross Sapp, and he's kind of like a normal looking guy. He's just an indie wrestler, and a little timid and slightly awkward, but I think so was Eddie Vedder back in the day. And he says that I guess cocaine is the one that came up with the name. And he's not really that much of an athlete or anything but the gimmick is so great. I can't believe nobody's come up with this yet. And how funny it is and how much it's tailor-made for a fan like me. So I wish Stephen Flo nothing but the best in his wrestling career. I hope you see much success. I hope you see main events of WrestleMania. I'm rooting for you, buddy. Kick-ass Stephen Flo. So if you've never seen Stephen Flo, look it up. It's hilarious. You'll die. So that pretty much does it for my news and whatnot. We'll move on to some wrestling results. I want to talk a little bit about Raw this week because we saw a title change. All right, just kind of refreshing the chat here. Shell shock. No, they still haven't pulled the trigger with Starks. And what I like about Billie Starks, too, is just how vastly she's improved. Like, you've literally watched her, from just run-of-the-mill indie talent to somebody who now sticks out. And that's great. Everybody loves her. She will have her day. One thing I've always said ever since I started this YouTube channel about wrestling fans, one of my biggest critiques of them is that when they get mad about a wrestling finish, they do it like with the thought process that that's the last show that's ever going to happen. Because Athena won, that means Billie Starks will never win a championship. She's buried. It's the same thing that used to happen years ago. Send them back to NXT. They're buried now and all this stuff because they lost a title match at WrestleMania. Do you have any idea the paycheck they're going to get in the mail in a couple of weeks for that fucking match? They're doing fine. So I think that fans act like the last thing they see is the last thing that is going to happen. But the wheels keep turning. Wrestling keeps moving. There's going to be a show tomorrow, a match tomorrow, show next week, pay-per-view next month. The business never stops. So if you don't get what you want today, you might get what you want tomorrow. Fans have no patience. They want everything, and they want it yesterday. And that's just the way wrestling fans are. So just chill. It's not worth getting mad at. I'm kind of intrigued by how dominant Athena has done. Just how many people really watch Ring of Honor? Like, the same people who don't really watch Ring of Honor are the same ones bitching about the finish. What do you care? So anyway, just find real problems. That's all. Raw this week was pretty good. We had a fun segment with CM Punk and Seth Rollins. Now, Rollins had his promo on Punk last week or the week before that I really liked. It kind of reminded me of Bret Hart's promo on Shawn Michaels after WrestleMania 13, how he talked for like a half an hour. And got really, really personal. Last week on Raw, Punk is in the ring, and he's big boying Seth Rollins once again. And this time, Seth Rollins shows up in the audience, and he's wearing just a little bit more reserved. He's not dressed like Elton John, like CM Punk said, and he's not dressed like Liberace. And Punk said, that's not an insult. I like Liberace's. Like, the problem is Seth Rollins isn't near as cool as Liberace. And just because you wear Elton John's sunglasses doesn't make you Elton John. And then Rollins comes out in the audience. He's kind of dressed all in black. And they share some words. And then finally, a brawl ensues between the two of them in the crowd. I think that spills over into the ringside area. A big pull apart, multiple pull aparts to get these guys separated. And then later on in the night is when they made the Raw on Netflix debut match official. So they're set for January 6th. And like I said, this is either going to be the beginning of their program that's going to blow off at Mania with maybe a title change, or they're getting this match out of the way now because both guys have got to do other shit at WrestleMania. So it's one of these two things. Either way, this will not be the only CM Punk versus Seth Rollins match in 2025, unless one of these guys gets hurt. It won't be the only match they have in 2025. So technically, it doesn't really matter who wins here. They will run it back, and they're going to trade victories. I think they have to. If you're Triple H, I think that's the best way to, keep everybody's ego in check, is just make sure everybody gets a win and whatnot. And that's, because if I'm in Seth Rollins' shoes, granted, you have to be professional. You're a wrestler who's got to go out there and do what he's told. You're a millionaire. You got a great life. You got to accept losing sometimes. But at the same time, what I like about feuds like this is the same thing I liked about Bret and Shawn's feud, is that there was realism and real personal issues being sewn in to their promos. What Rollins was saying about Punk when he was gone and Rollins carrying the company, all that is true and things that he probably really believes. And so if you're Seth Rollins, somebody who's been there all this time while Punk has been trashing the company every chance he got for the past decade, then he comes back and takes my spot away? Oh, fuck no. So I can totally understand there not only being, cooperation and professionalism going on, but there's got to be some jockeying for your WrestleMania positions as well. And if you're Seth Rollins behind the scenes, you don't want to give up that spot. Certainly not to somebody like CM Punk, So it's interesting with these guys that I think since Punk went out of his way to say, I don't think about you because you have nothing I want, the only way to really do this match again is if a championship is on the line. So we will see. Like I said, there's lots of different ways to get there, but I think if Punk won and beat Rollins, and then Punk won the world title at the Royal Rumble, for example, then you could have Rollins win the Rumble or win the Chamber and challenge and beat CM Punk for the championship in the main event of WrestleMania on night one. Or because Punk is so popular, and it might be him and Roman Reigns are like the two, most popular guys in the company right now, that's the match WWE might be pivoting towards. So we might be in a situation like last year, Triple H said their WrestleMania plans were in place by October, but then Rock came in and fucked it all up. So if that's the same case this year, if they've got their plans ready back in October, but then they saw the way Punk and Roman's dynamic was on television, they're like, oh, we might want to go with that. Now there might be a pivoting going on to where they're shuffling and moving around pieces. And it's just a matter of where all these pieces go. And unless you do a tag team match or unless you do triple threat matches, there are only 4 main event spots available in 2 matches, assuming it's one-on-one. So unless, one of these are tags or something like that, and I have a feeling this year they might have to do something like that. They might have to have a night 1 main event that is some sort of a tag or a triple threat with implications for night 2 again. They might do something like that, in which case a few more guys will have a chance. But when you think about Punk, Roman, Cody, Cena, Rock, Rollins, Gunther, and possibly Owens too, if he winds up winning the championship, I think Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn is going to be a WrestleMania match, is what I'm hoping we see. So there's a lot to think about there. So speaking of that, later on Raw, Drew McIntyre approached Rollins backstage, and he's trying to kind of recruit him to take down the OG bloodline because they were the ones that, were kind of resisting getting recruited to join the OG bloodline because they haven't forgotten and they haven't forgiven. And so Drew and Rollins are kind of on the same page there. Another guy who's on the same page with that is Kevin Owens. The 3 of them could form some sort of an alliance. And if they formed some sort of an alliance to take down the OG bloodline, that would put Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn on opposite sides. And I'm really hoping, since Kevin Owens is walking around with that winged eagle, that there's still a chance that he wins the championship. And like I said earlier, hypothetically, what if you do Cody and Owens again at the Royal Rumble, and this time it's a no DQ match or something, and The Rock shows up and costs Cody the match, and then Owens is the champion, and then you have Sami Zayn either win the Rumble or the Chamber, and then you got Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn for the championship, and then you can do Cody and Rock, and then you can do Punk, who might beat Gunther for the championship, and then you can do Punk and Roman. There's so many different ways you could do it here, but I really like the idea of Owens and Sami. But could you realistically do Owens and Sami for the title at WrestleMania when you have so many big stars at the top? Owens and Sami for the title might have to wait until after WrestleMania. But I think Owens and Sami having just a match could happen at WrestleMania. Just wouldn't be a main event. It wouldn't be for a championship. They might just be at odds, and they might have to face each other after Kevin Owens' dislike for Roman and the OG bloodline clashes too hard with Sami, and then you've got these best friends who have had so many ups and downs and winning tag team titles together in the main event of WrestleMania, destroying each other in bloody wars in Ring of Honor and NXT, being at odds, being teammates, being friends. Their relationship is all over the place. One-on-one at WrestleMania, for some stakes would be super fun, especially if Owens was the champion going into that. We'll see. A lot to think about between now and not only January, but the Rumble and WrestleMania. Don't forget, we got a Saturday night's main event coming up in January at some point as well. So much going on. Braun Breaker defeated Ludwig Kaiser in an IC title match on Raw. That was actually a pretty good match, I will say. I enjoyed Rey Mysterio, the old legend, kind of denying access to the locker room to New Day as they showed up to change. And Rey's like, no, all of us think what you did is messed up, so why don't you go find a new place to change? And then Xavier's like, fine, we didn't want to change there anyway, and he just storms off. That was kind of funny. We had Liv and Dominic and Raquel in the ring. That's when Rhea came out and announced that she was the #1 contender. And of course, at the Raw Netflix kickoff thing, the match for January 6th was made official there. Zoe Stark defeated Raquel Rodriguez and Kaden Carter to advance in the Intercontinental Championship tournament. And that's going to put Dakota and Zoe in the semifinals on the left side of the bracket there. And Lyra Valkyria will be facing the winner of who wins the triple threat match next week. Now, Kairi Sane was attacked last week on Raw by Pure Fusion Collective backstage. That was kind of a write-off. She got injured. They're writing her off TV and taking her out of the tournament, and her replacement is who wins the match on Monday. So just think in your head real hard who that might be. And so what that means is two things. We got our Final Four is set, and that also means Natalya is not going to be the inaugural Women's Intercontinental Champion, which I think is stupid. And now we have our Final Four, and based on the four that it is, I know who I want it to be. I'll say this. I would love it to be Dakota Kai, but I'd rather have it be Natalya. I don't think it will be Zoe Stark, and I don't really want it to be Lyra Valkyria. I like Lyra's wrestling ability. I just don't like her name or her gimmick. Just not a fan. So don't really want it to be her. But the fourth and final person in the Final Four is likely who it's going to be, and I'm fine with that because she deserves it. In the main event of Monday Night Raw, we saw something that I knew would happen as soon as the New Day turned on Big E. One of the first things I said, okay, Judgment Day needs to drop those tag team titles to a babyface team. That's got to happen right now because New Day will be tag team champions maybe as early as January 6th. They might get a title shot on January 6th. I think War Raiders deserve a chance to run with it a little bit, but I wouldn't be surprised if WWE wastes no time. So I said right from the start that Judgment Day should drop the belts, and they did. War Raiders beat Finn Balor and JD McDonough when Damian Priest showed back up and prevented Balor from using a chair. Balor got back in the ring, took the War Raiders finish, and got beat. New tag team champions. Very cool to see Ivar back healthy again. And the two of them winning tag team gold. It might be short-lived. There's no way they're going to be champs for too long because I think Kofi and Xavier will win those championships back very soon. Like I said, they taped Monday's Raw last week. I read the spoilers. Nothing really crazy happens there, so if you want to look them up, feel free to do so. And on January 6th, we've got Seth Rollins versus CM Punk, Roman Reigns versus Solo Sikoa, and Rhea Ripley versus Liv Morgan for the Women's Championship. That's going to be a fun show. We will be watching that here together. Last night's SmackDown, a couple of things to talk about there. So this was, in fact, taped last week. Now, I was a little confused on the taping schedule last week, but last week I had said, if they tape Friday's SmackDown after SmackDown last week, that means they're taping it before Saturday night's main event airs. And if Kevin Owens is going to win the championship on Saturday night's main event, they're going to want him out live in front of the camera on SmackDown. But you can't do that if it's taped because then you're going to spoil the title match on Saturday night's main event. So I had a feeling that if it was true that SmackDown was being taped, then Kevin Owens is not going to win the title, and he didn't. So they kept all the Kevin Owens stuff to vignettes, so none of that was able to be spoiled. We were just going to have to wait and see that on SmackDown. But the matches, we kind of already knew what was going to go down. So we'll just kind of run through it quickly here. We had the Bloodline opening up the show with Solo Sikoa talking about his tribal combat match against Roman Reigns on Raw. Drew McIntyre, I should say, interrupted. And McIntyre told Solo that he wants to destroy him because of what the Bloodline did to him. And it was Solo Sikoa that debuted and cost McIntyre the title at Clash at the Castle. But at the same time, McIntyre acknowledges that Solo is the only member of that family to stand up to Roman Reigns, so he's a little bit torn. So he gives Solo Sikoa his blessing to go handle Roman Reigns, and then when Solo Sikoa is done with Roman Reigns, Drew and he can finish their business. That's when Jimmy Uso comes in and attacks Drew McIntyre with a crutch. They brawl into the crowd, and LA Knight, Andrade, and Apollo Crews then run in to attack the Bloodline because they have a six-man tag match up next. The Bloodline wins. Nakamura showed up on the outside and attacked LA Knight, and we had a Samoan Spike to Apollo Crews for the win. But Solo looked good in there. He hit the Umaga hip attack and then hit just a sweet-ass Uranagi and then into the spike. Solo, I'm starting to like Solo. I'm starting to like him. He's warming up. And after that, we had a Kevin Owens kind of vignette promo, pre-tape type of thing. And he's, of course, talking about what we talked about earlier, the big post-match angle they did on Saturday night's main event where Kevin Owens hits Cody with a package pile driver and he gets stretchered out. Owens steals the Winged Eagle title. And he's talking about how none of that happened was his fault. He was screwed over. And WWE officials are worried that he snapped. And he said that he has not even snapped yet. You haven't even seen me snap. This is not snapped. And he's going to keep the Winged Eagle Championship and hold it hostage until he gets what he wants. And what I'm assuming what he wants is another shot at the championship. And we could see that at the Royal Rumble. And of all those names we mentioned earlier when we were talking about WrestleMania plans, one name we didn't mention was Randy Orton. We know he'll be back at some point as well. And I would be a little disappointed if he just came back to cost Owens his title match and then feud with him, and it's Randy Orton and Kevin Owens at WrestleMania. I don't need that. I just want Owens to win the championship. That's what I want for him. That's what he deserves. We had a Grayson Waller effect with Braun Strowman. He came out there dressed as Santa. And Carmelo Hayes then came out, and he wants to run their match back. They had a match the week before that Strowman won. Strowman agrees they have their match, and Strowman winds up getting counted out. I guess he just took too long. He had Mello up on his shoulders and he threw him into the ring, but then he didn't get back into the ring in time. And so he gets counted out. Mello wins, runs off. Strowman goes looking for him backstage, and then Mello ambushes him with a chair, which is pretty funny. So we will get a rubber match out of these two guys, I'm assuming maybe next week. We also had Johnny Gargano defeating Alex Shelley in a one-on-one match. DIY debuted new music last night. What did you guys think? I just got a little glimpse of it. I couldn't even tell if I liked it or not. But a lot of fans didn't really care for the previous one, so this might be an upgrade. Let me know in the chat if it was any good or not. The win, he got the win with a holding the tights off of a high cross body from the top rope, and Gargano got the win. Really happy the DIY are tag champs right now. And speaking of tag champs, Bianca and Naomi, who has been allowed to fill in for Jade Cargill as one half of the women's tag team champions, they defeated Candice LeRae and Nia Jax. Naomi hit the split-legged Mooney onto Candice for the win. And you got to think that Naomi was the one who attacked Jade Cargill, or maybe Jade comes back and is upset that she's been replaced and Jade turns heel or something like that, but then we still have to explain who attacked her. I think it's more likely that Naomi probably did it, but Jade is going to come back, and that's going to immediately cause some issues, because if Jade comes back in a few weeks and be like, hey, I'm back now, I'll take my title, thank you, and then maybe Naomi doesn't want to relinquish the belt and doesn't want to give it back to her, and there's a little power struggle or dissension or problems there. Or, maybe Jade comes and takes her spot back, and then Naomi comes out and costs them the tag titles and attacks Jade or attacks both. I don't know. They're definitely heading down a road like that, though, you can tell. And that was pretty much your SmackDown in a nutshell. Taped show, nothing too crazy last night. I only caught the highlights because I have been busy. But Dynamite this week, holy shit. Before we talk about Dynamite, let me cruise to the chat here and say hello to a couple of people who have been chiming in. It's good to see Juliet up in here. Welcome back. Good to see Matthew Antkill, Hassan, Ryan Adams is here, Jason Meadows, welcome. Good to see Safa Malak back, Blue Chew, Danhausen is back. We've got a couple of supers coming in. Quentin Brockington. WWE should bring back Ember Moon. She already got a job. Ramon Coffee in the house as well. Welcome back. Good to see you. Transferring Heat in the house. Ryan Adams, thanks for the $5, my friend. Wild that WWE has so many people that can main event Mania this year that you have Drew and Orton in like the 8th or 9th slots. That's what I'm saying. I just omitted to mention Orton a minute ago. I'm like, yeah, he's another name. McIntyre as well. And the fact that it doesn't look like either one of those guys are going to be factored into any sort of title match at WrestleMania is pretty crazy. But I'm still hoping that they find fun things to do. CW Moonsault, or C number Moonsault, C hashtag Moonsault. Thanks for the 5. I've made the decision to finally replace Macho Man with Sami Zayn as my all-time favorite wrestler. Been a big fan of his since 2007 in PWG and Ring of Honor. You know, man, Macho Man was my second favorite wrestler of all time behind Bret Hart. And I am not offended by your choice, because if I were to pick my favorite modern wrestlers, Sami Zayn's top 5 easily. Just kind of like him as a wrestler, like him as a human being. And he has got an amazing run. He just had such a great run on the Indies and everything he did as El Generico, and then in NXT, and the several different renditions of himself he's had in WWE. Quite the career. He's a WrestleMania main eventer. You know, he ended Gunther's streak. He's a decorated champion in WWE. He's respected and beloved by a large majority of the audience, and is going to go down as one of the good guys for sure when it's all said and done. I do not reject your decision. I think that's a good one. As much as I love Macho Man, I can understand the attraction to Sami Zayn because of what he's done. But anyway, moving on to Dynamite from Wednesday, this was a pretty good show. Number one, they are starting to run smaller buildings now. This was a 3,000 seat capacity here. And it looked like more of an auditorium or a stage or something, because the crowd was completely filled in, which I liked. Although when they do that, I still think AEW needs to do a better job of lighting it. I just don't like the dark. I didn't like it years ago. Remember, like in 2002, WWE Raws would be dark. And I always thought they were doing that because attendance was dropping. And I never really liked in WWE when they turned the lights down. I like to see the crowd. And AEW turns the lights down all the time. Dynamites are very dark. So if they're going to run smaller arenas, or they're going to run venues that allows you to fill the majority of it, light it up so it looks nice. But either way, it still looked better having, an arena more tailored for your audience numbers. If you're only going to pull in 3,000 to 7,000 for most of your TVs, then go small. Just go small so it looks more full. And then when you do that, you can light it and it's a better atmosphere, more intimate and whatnot. So I liked all of that, but I don't like the really short entrance. Now, if you're going to hold these things in like theaters, then you kind of have to do that a little bit. But I swear you could put your hand on the ring apron and you could touch the tunnel. Like, it felt like it was that close. I'm like, the wrestler's music is hitting and they're in the ring before, 10 seconds of the theme has started. So it's just way too short, like the entrance ramp, but I like the size of the building. So maybe still some tinkering to be done there a little bit to really, find their niche, but I liked the arena setup. And this week, Christmas night, Dynamite, by the way, is going to look great in Hammerstein Ballroom for sure. Mercedes Moné defended her TBS title against Anna Jay, and not a bad match. And what I've noticed, and Mercedes got the win, by the way, and I've noticed that Mercedes, it feels to me like she's kind of starting to find a footing in AEW. Kind of a slow start for her, I felt like. And now I feel like she's a little bit more in rhythm and starting to find her way a little bit better, and perhaps having some better matches. And if you set her up for a big collision with Athena sometime in 2025, I think that can be a big money match. Same goes for her with Thunder Rosa, Toni Storm, and Mariah May. FTR cut a promo hyping Fight for the Fallen on January 1st in Asheville. It's going to be a Dynamite 1 week after Christmas Day on January 1st, and much of the proceeds are going to go to help hurricane victims from the hurricane that went through there this past year and really devastated Asheville and a lot of my former home state. As is the case with North Carolina, they get blasted by hurricanes all the time. I've been in several, but when it goes through the mountainous areas like that and just the floods and the landslides and just the devastation was really, really bad. So the show is going to be to benefit those victims of the hurricane and to donate to hurricane relief. That's awesome. And FTR kind of cut a video promo saying that the doctors have not cleared them until January 1st, which is weird that they would know their clear date. Because if they're not cleared now, there's no way to guarantee you'll be cleared on January 1st. You would have to see a doctor like before then, and he said, okay, you're cleared. But anyway, they said the doctors have refused to clear them until January 1st, and they will be coming to Dynamite on January 1st in Asheville, which is where they live. and they said they are not coming alone. Yeah, who do you think this might be? Maybe that other feller that lives in Asheville, Adam Copeland. I think Edge is coming back. It'll be Cope and FTR. They will go after the Death Riders. And if these three are going to be aligned with each other, at least semi-temporarily on TV, put the trios titles on them. That's what I would do. Keep Copeland at bay a little bit. That way he's not diving off of shit and breaking another leg. Keep him in some tags. And I would also like to see, when Copeland comes back, I would like to see him have something to do with Christian when he finally tries to cash that thing in, because the longer he holds it, the more I think Christian's actually going to win the championship somehow. But the championship is also in a briefcase, and we don't even know what the deal with that is. So maybe Christian tries to cash in and Copeland stops him or something. Or, like I mentioned earlier, with the World Heavyweight Championship and having names on your lineage, same goes for the AEW Championship. I mean, what if Christian cashes in the contract and wins the title, and then Copeland beats him for it? Now you've got Edge and Christian on your world title legacy, along with Moxley and Jericho and some other big names. If they wanted to do that and have some fun, they could. Or Copeland could just be there to screw over Christian, and that could be almost equally as fun. So just a thought there that maybe Edge and Christian could be, if AEW wanted to hot tater their title. I do not care about passing the title around here and there. It's not really a problem anymore. Years ago, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, it was out of control. I mean, championships were changing hands every couple of hours, much less every couple of weeks. So we've kind of gotten away from that. We've had some nice long runs, year-long runs, 2-year-long runs, 4-year-long runs, just in recent history alone. So if one company, WWE or WWE, decides they want to just throw the belt at 5 different guys over the course of 7 months, I don't care. I don't care. So why don't they do that in AEW? Tony Khan's got a chance to put big-time Hall of Fame names on his championship lineage. Why not do it? For fun. Have Christian win, hold it a month, have Copeland win it, hold it 2 months, and then have Hangman Page or Moxley or Darby or whoever beat him for it. But that's way down the line, probably. I think Darby is probably, set to win that title at some point. But excited to see Adam Copeland come back in a couple of weeks, and be more careful, Adam, this time. MJF, he cut a promo on Dynamite. It's okay. I'm only mildly interested in the MJF and Adam Cole stuff. Showed a little funny pic of Adam Cole with like really skinny arms and made fun of his weird ass yellow tan and that kind of thing. Cole showed up, attacked, Maxwell retreats, and the two of them are going to have another face-off tonight on Collision. We had a Jamie Hayter promo on Wednesday where she challenged Julia Hart for the January 1st Fight for the Fallen Dynamite. That will be fun. We got a Kenny Omega vignette kind of teasing that he's going to be heading back and showing up in AEW ahead of his Wrestle Dynasty match on January 5th against Gabe Kidd. So he'll probably show up at Wrestle Dream, I hope. Or I'm sorry, not Wrestle Dream, World's End. The other one, World's End. Let's see. Nick Wayne and Christian defeated Hook and Shibata on Wednesday night as well. Ahead of Chris Jericho's match last night against Matt Cardona, he toured New York City in a little vignette that ran on Dynamite, and it was extremely well shot. I don't know if it was just one cameraman or if they had a crew. I don't know if you need permits for that or how that works, but he was just all over the place, all over New York City, and it was really kind of well presented. I thought it was funny. And in a segment on Dynamite that a lot of people are trashing, but I don't know why. I liked it. It was a Ricochet interview, right? Ricochet interview with Tony Schiavone. And he comes out there in a suit looking very dapper. And he's really leaning into playing this super dork. And a lot of fans are reminding themselves and everybody else about some of the things that's been said about Ricochet in the past and his promo ability, and how he's even a Triple H clip that's been floating around of Triple H talking about that how timid he was and nervous he was. And a lot of fans kind of think he's a dork, and nobody really thought he was a good promo to begin with. So now everybody's just amplifying that now. And I think what Ricochet is doing on TV is doing this on purpose. I think he's out there purposely being weird and awkward and kind of dorky And this is all part of the story. I think they're telling you a story, but instead fans are so got a hard on for hating on people that they're using this as ammunition to show how bad Ricochet has been in the past. I think they are doing something right now in AEW to improve upon this. And if Ricochet wants to play the role of a dork, he's kind of a natural at that, and he plays it well. And so he's out there talking to Shivani about the business card that MVP gave him. The Hurt Syndicate come out, and Ricochet's, kind of kissing their ass a little bit, and MVP calls him out for that. And he says, he asks Ricochet to get the business card out. You got that business card? Let me see it. Ricochet gets it out and he hands it to him. And then Bobby Lashley, with the force of a silverback fucking gorilla, just grabs Ricochet's face and throat and just holds him. And Ricochet's just this look on his face. And he's just like, what was Crush's move? He's just squeezing his head, or Great Khali maybe. And he's just squeezing Ricochet's head. And MVP's like, nobody likes a kiss ass or something like that. And he rescinds the offer to join the Hurt Syndicate. And what I thought was going to lead to a beatdown just leads to them letting him go. Lashley releases him, and Ricochet kind of walks off, and he's kind of like, okay, man. Okay, guys, we'll talk about it later. And I'm like, oh, okay. This is good. I feel like what this is going to lead to is Ricochet joining the Hurt Syndicate. Because if Ricochet doesn't do something else, because when he first came in, granted he's only been there a few months, a lot of the criticisms, it's all bad faith, but the criticisms are, oh, he's just exactly who he is in WWE. All he's going to do is go there and be the same guy, only for a smaller promotion. What if that's not what's going to happen? What if he's going here to do other things and do things that he wouldn't necessarily do in WWE, like join the Hurt business or the Hurt Syndicate? So what I think is going to happen is this is going to lead to not only him joining, but maybe some other people as well. And this will give him a faction. This will give him people to play off of. This might give him the ability to improve on some of those promo skills that he lacks, possibly, and also provide him with a shield, so to speak, where he can be in the ring during promos and his faction story can get told without him having to verbally tell that story. And he'll be kind of like the high flyer of the group. Plus, you can turn him into a cocky guy. I don't think he's not going to be as good as Kyle Fletcher. Kyle Fletcher is just tremendous. But Ricochet, I think, as long as he's not treated like a joke, he could still be a dork. The faction could recognize his ability and his talents, but they know that he's kind of a dork, and maybe when he's not looking, they're kind of rolling their eyes or elbow nudging each other, look at this idiot, maybe something like that. I hope not, though. If he's in the group, I think he needs to be a full-blown member of the group, or maybe they do little skits and vignettes that kind of venture into comedic territory, but not too much, where Lashley and Shelton and MVP are going to teach Ricochet to be cool. Because right now, when Lashley, MVP, and Shelton walk into a room, they look cool. They look badass and cool. When Ricochet walks in the room, he looks like the black guy from Scrubs. The guy from Clueless. I forget the actor's name. That's who he looks like to me. Because he's a very handsome man, and he's just got that face, that really nice, friendly face. There's just nothing that stands out about him the way Lashley and Shelton, who are just so big and fucking badass, and MVP is in his right as well. And so if you have this little this little training montage of them trying to, toughen up Ricochet or make him a little bit less of a nerd or a dork, could be fun television. And if Ricochet starts turning the corner a little bit and changing up his attitude a little bit, or his promo style even, and maybe shows some improvement. Some people think he's unimprovable. Maybe that's true. But if he gets better, then some people just don't want to keep spinning their wheels and treading water doing the same thing. He left WWE to come to AEW to do something different. This is different. He wasn't doing anything like this in WWE. Where if he's just Ricochet having great matches in AEW, well, he was Ricochet having great matches in WWE. Put him in a faction in AEW, you stick him with Lashley and a Shelton, badasses like that, who can maybe take Ricochet's extremely acrobatic, flashy, and exciting wrestling style and interweave it with some smash mouth, shit, I'm into it. So I think Ricochet not only will join the group, but I think others will as well. I'm trying. Who are the two people that Lashley's been associated with? Two guys in the past in WWE. They're both in AEW right now. Lio Rush and maybe Reginald. Because Reginald is there too. But you could get Lio Rush back into that, or anybody else that Lashley or Shelton or MVP may or may not have history with. Might be fun. They've passed out the cards to who else? Maybe Lee Moriarty or maybe Dante Martin. Some other guys have gotten the cards. I forgot who has all been approached by MVP. But if they start adding these guys, that could be fun if the faction grows. But I think the fun story inside of the faction could be the transformation of Ricochet, into somebody who's a little bit less awkward. And I think the reason he's coming off so awkward and weird and dorky right now in his promos is because he's doing it on purpose. That's why. Speaking of Big Bad Shelton, he beat Beast Mortos in a Blue League match on Wednesday as well. And in one of my favorite segments on the show, oh my God, this was so great. Portrait of a Rock Star. Toni Storm, of course, returned a couple of weeks ago on Dynamite, and then she had a couple of quick matches on Rampage and Collision. And of course, the fans were mad that she had a return match on Rampage. I'm like, who fucking cares? Who gives a shit? What's interesting is how her persona is, because when we saw her come back, she returned to her OG Toni Storm gimmick. But then when she did her first little interview, I think it was after the Rampage match, it was like backstage in the hallway, and she's speaking from the perspective of like a rookie, like somebody who's just gotten there, who's just gotten to AEW, and she's acting very bizarre. And then fans are like, oh, she has amnesia. And I'm like, I don't know if she has amnesia. She's being really kind of over the top in her delivery. I feel like she's acting. I don't feel like it's amnesia or it's an alter ego, And then on Wednesday night, they did this Portrait of a Rock Star sit down with RJ City. And to watch RJ process what's happening here was just gold. Just with his he's kind of looking at the camera like he doesn't know what's going on. And he starts asking Toni Storm about, her history in AEW. Oh, I've been watching ever since I was a kid. And he goes, okay, oh, what about you being a 3-time AEW world champion? She's like, oh, it's a little bit too early to be talking about that now. I just got here. And he starts name dropping people. And she's just like, oh, she's a legend. She's wonderful. He asks her what she thinks of Mariah May. And she goes, best in the business. And so she's there as this really young, eager, ready to learn, wanting to work every day, loves rock and roll and loves the grind, right? Like the OG Toni Storm. And it's so great. And watching RJ just being like, okay, like maybe dialing 911 in his pocket and slowly backing away. I loved, because you don't know what's going on with her, but I don't believe it's amnesia. And I don't think it's an alter ego. I think this is timeless Toni Storm playing a character. I think timeless Toni Storm is playing this role. It's either that or one better. I kind of like this one better. Or timeless Toni Storm. How was timeless Toni Storm created? Timeless Toni Storm was created because Toni Storm had like a nervous breakdown after she lost, and she kind of went nuts, and she created this timeless Toni Storm persona. I don't know, as a way to cope. I'm sure there's a name for this, what's going on with her, this disassociation of reality or whatever. I'm sure there's a term for it. So she kind of created the timeless Toni Storm character. Toni Storm then gets betrayed by Mariah May and attacked, and then loses the championship to her. So what if timeless Toni Storm then has a nervous breakdown and creates this Toni Storm, which isn't the same Toni Storm as the Toni Storm she was before Timeless? This is a third Toni Storm. This is timeless Toni Storm playing Toni Storm. Okay, follow me here. So you had timeless Toni Storm was born out of a nervous breakdown, and then that character has a nervous breakdown, which means the real, true, authentic Toni Storm is buried like 3 characters deep into this woman's personality. And I don't even think it's split personalities. I think it's the fact that it might be split personalities, but I think that she's playing a role here. I think that she's probably doing this maybe to sucker in Mariah May. And I think that she's playing this role as a way to get to her. And then when she attacks Mariah May or she beats Mariah May for the title, she's going to reveal that she was timeless Toni Storm the whole time. And she was just playing this character to trick Mariah May into thinking that she was crazy. But she technically still is crazy because timeless Toni Storm was born out of craziness. So there's a lot of layers of crazy, and Toni Storm is terrific at all of this. I've said from the very beginning, before she even started all this crazy shit, I said that she is the best female wrestler they have in that company. From top to bottom, promo, in-ring, look, all of it. She is the best one they have. And I still think that now. Over Mercedes, over Mariah, over Thunder Rosa, over Britt Baker, over all of them. She is the best one. So I love what they're doing here. It's really funny. And I hope it gets crazier, because this is kind of a fun character for her to kind of go back to that mentality of being somebody that just wants to succeed, and they haven't been jaded by the business yet. And playing that role, playing that character, it's cool because she's a real person playing the character of someone who's playing a character. So it's cool. It's multi-layered, and that's fun. You know what else was fun? Will fucking Ospreay against Darby Allin. I watched this match 3 times. Wow. It's the spirit of AEW was kind of embodied in a match like this, but it was also so unique because Will Ospreay, he's probably the best guy that Darby Allin can be in the ring with. The best guy to play off of Darby's creative style, his creativity, and his bonkers ass-backwards style, which a lot of wrestlers don't know how to handle. And Ospreay not only can handle it, can help create some crazy spots. I mean, how many were there in this thing? There was of course, he does the coffin drop onto the apron, which he's done before, but this time he hit the corner of it, somehow survives. That sequence in the ring that involved, it was like Ospreay just flipped Darby off of his back, and then it went into a code red and just this crazy near fall. And Matt Menard goes whoa, just lets out this woohoo. It was just so great. Crowd was into it. The styles clash, we had a styles clash from the apron to the floor onto Darby Allin. It was one of the more fun matches. I think that sequence that I was thinking of when he flipped him off the back, Ospreay just hit him with just a wicked hidden blade to the face, and that's what took them into the reversal and the code red. Whatever that sequence was unbelievable. This match was just loaded with it. And I knew it was going to be good. When I saw it, I'm like, man, this is why the Continental Classic is great, because you get matches like this and you get them in rapid fire. I mean, every week on Dynamite and Rampage and Collision tonight in probably an hour, unless the football games run long, you're getting Will Ospreay versus Ricochet tonight on Collision, a show that 300,000 people watch. So you can't stop getting good matches here. But this one, I think there was just something about it that set it apart. Everything was just so crisp and fast and quick and rapid and perfect. It didn't look like an acrobatic dance of 2 guys cooperating. These 2 guys were being athletic and acrobatic while beating the ever-loving shit out of each other at the same time. This is the type of match I would show someone who's not a wrestling fan, who wonders why you watch this weird stuff. Show them this match, because of their eyes will pop out of their head more than once during this match. It was so good. Can't say enough good things about it. Is it match of the year? It's a match of the year candidate for sure. I definitely think it's TV match of the year. I might have to rethink that, but I'm pretty sure I'd put that up there. TV match of the year, I'd say that's a safe bet. Match of the year, probably not, but hell, you got to put it on the list, because even though it was a Dynamite match, still, it was so good. My God. The finish saw Ospreay load up Darby for the Stormbreaker, and Darby countered with a Scorpion Death Drop into 2 coffin drops and pinned Will Ospreay in the middle clean. Wow. Wow. Unbelievable match there. And I feel like Darby, he'll be the one to win the world championship. He's got to be. He's just doing tremendous work right now. The main event was stupid. It was the Death Riders defeating Orange Cassidy, Jay White, and Hangman Page. Moxley rolled up Orange Cassidy when Page and White were jaw-jacking stupid, and then all of them were like arguing after the match. I didn't really love that. I liked Hangman Page before he got, a little bit more before he got into this nonsense, because he's just out there arguing. I liked him when he was a little bit more crazy than this. And I know his deal with Jay White's not quite done yet. And I'm sure Hangman Page will probably hold the title as well in 2025. I think Hangman Page maybe should beat Darby for it or something. Swerve, I'm hoping, will find his way back to the championship as well. But in terms of the immediate future, I don't think Moxley's going to drop the title at World's End, but I think Darby will have to take it from him, because the Death Riders angle is just not paying off the way I was hoping it would. And, unless they surprise us with Shane McMahon at World's End, I'm really not that into the Death Riders. So as far as I'm concerned, Moxley can drop the belt at any time. Last night's Rampage, we saw Takeshita and Brian Cage defeating Mark Davis and Powerhouse Hobbs. We had Willow Nightingale beating Harley Cameron. After the match, there was some post-match action, and Chris Statlander came out to make the save for Willow. And that's interesting, because Statlander was just moved back into a babyface after that crazy feud they had. And the two of them kind of had a little face-off there. So now they're both babyfaces again. They might reform their friendship. I did kind of like that little moment between them. And Brody King beat Commander in a Blue League match. Tonight on Collision, which should air in just a little while, you've got Will Ospreay and Ricochet one-on-one, as well as Darby Allin versus Claudio. Those are both Gold League matches. And in the Blue League, you've got Daniel Garcia taking on Shelton Benjamin. We saw Shelton beat up Garcia after his win over Beast Mordos on Wednesday and stood over him with the TNT title. So that TNT title might get into the Hurt Syndicate at some point. And Mark Briscoe is taking on the Beast Mortos in a Blue League match as well. Also tonight, we've got Chris Statlander versus Penelope Ford, and MJF and Adam Cole are going to have a face-to-face. Like I said, the Hammerstein Ballroom Dynamite tapes tomorrow. So that'll be taping probably when we're watching Rock Bottom in your house tomorrow night. They're taping that. That's going to air Christmas night, Wednesday night. Listen to these matches. It looks like it's a Continental Classic dominated here. In the Blue League, Shelton Benjamin versus Kazuchika Okada. Holy shit. Daniel Garcia versus Kyle Fletcher. That's going to be sexy. Then you've got Will Ospreay versus Brody King, Darby Allin versus Ricochet, and Claudio versus Commander. So Claudio versus Commander, that's probably going to be a sure win for Claudio, but should still be fun to watch. I'm into Shelton and Okada, Garcia and Fletcher, and Darby and Ricochet the most out of those 5 matches. But those are going to be in the Hammerstein Ballroom, and that's going to look badass on TV on Christmas night. I won't be home to watch Dynamite. I'll be having dinner with my family, but I will be commenting on that when I get home. Here's what we got so far for the World's End card. By the way, 1 week from tonight is World's End. We will be here watching that together in a watch-along. There's only 4 matches so far, and usually there's about 10. So they got to add 6 matches in 1 week here. That's a lot. Here's what we have so far. Moxley versus Hangman Page versus Orange Cassidy versus Jay White for the AEW World title. MJF versus Adam Cole. Mariah May defending her AEW championship against Thunder Rosa. And Powerhouse Hobbs challenging Takeshita for the international title. I'm really hoping Hobbs picks up the belt there. I think that he will. Some of the upcoming shows we have, like I said, we got the Hammerstein Ballroom shows on Christmas Day. We've got World's End 1 week from tonight on December 28th. We've got Dynamite Fight for the Fallen a week after that on January 1st. Then we have Raw on Netflix on January 6th. Then we've got another Saturday night's main event on January 25th. Then we have the Royal Rumble. So usually, December and the early parts of January are kind of slow parts of the wrestling season. Not this year. Lots to do, lots to discuss, and lots to watch. So it's going to be fun. Very fun. I somehow managed to make it to the end of my notes. Sorry for going a little bit fast there, but we were running out of time. and I wanted to make sure I got everything in terms of what we missed over the past week. I'm going to read a little bit of the chat real quick. I think Tony's mind is broken. Yeah, that is one of the things it could be, because if Tony Storm had a nervous breakdown and created Timeless Tony Storm, and then Timeless Tony Storm had a nervous breakdown and created a different Tony Storm, now you got all these variations of Tony Storms, and the real Tony Storm is buried so deep inside this woman that I don't even think Dr. Shelby can pry it out. And you get some Stormception going. It could be a lot of fun. I'm liking it. And I think Tony Storm can pull it off. That's what's great about her, is that she's good. She can talk. She's extremely entertaining to listen to speak. And she's the perfect person to pull off something elaborate like this. You couldn't give this shit to Cora Jade. This is this is for Tony Storm. So I'm liking it. Doug Unfunny, you were shocked that Darby Allin won clean. Well, you have to. The Continental Classic, you got to win clean in these matches for the most part. So that's kind of what I like about him as well, is you're seeing people lose. You're seeing losses happen. Will Ospreay taking a flat loss right there, clean in the middle. Think of the matches he's had. All the different guys Will Ospreay's worked with like over the past year. A lot of these matches have been one-offs, and they've been terrific. He's won some, he's lost some, and he will be world champion in the company as well. No doubt about it. Oh, thank you for that, Jay Jackson. Okay, so they scaled back the arena. You wrote that in all capitals. He must be offended. Yeah, so that also works too. I like smaller venues because it's more intimate. So I didn't realize that Dynamite was in the Capital One Arena, which is a big arena, but I guess they just sectioned it off. Kind of like how they did for like the Thunderdome. The Thunderdome was in the baseball arena, but you wouldn't have known it because they kind of, had it all enclosed there. So if you're going to run a bigger arena, then scale it back to where you don't have upper decks tarked off, just block off half of the arena completely and then set up everything there. However you do it, as long as the arena is more full, that's what I would do. So running smaller buildings or scaling back larger arenas so it doesn't look like you're running a show in a large arena, I think is a better way to do it. And what's you got to understand about AEW is these are things that they're recognizing and noticing, because that looked different to me on TV. So AEW sees and hears the criticisms. WWE used to ignore criticisms and then troll us and laugh in our faces. At least AEW is like, okay, if we're not drawing attendance, we need to make our arenas look better. They're seeing, they're understanding, they're recognizing this stuff, trying to adjust to it. And so that's good. That's a lot better than just ignoring it and forgetting it and pretending it doesn't exist. So, at least they're trying. Running big buildings, I think, is unnecessary for Dynamites and collisions for the type of, for the attendance they're doing. But, just scaling it back to look good on TV is what I appreciated there. Like I said, I just didn't like the super short entrance. You could touch the ring and the tunnel. That's like super short. There's no time to do your entrance. Or maybe get creative. Like, why does every wrestling show have to look the same? The setup they used on Wednesday night, what if they had like the tunnel way off to the side, as far off to the side as they could, and kind of like how a Saturday Night's Main Event had with the skinny aisleway, and you just do the entrances through there. You still have the Tron and the center set there, but they kind of come through the side, and you just have the camera following them through, a lot like they did on Saturday Night's Main Event, and present their entrances that way every week, where the camera follows them down the skinny entranceway that gives them a longer entrance, and then it widens out as they get in front of the Tron, and then if they have a little pose to do, or if they have pyro, that's where it happens. Wrestling hasn't done that yet, where you have a little side entrance. So you basically get two entrances. The camera follows you through the skinny entrance, through the fans, and then you emerge in front of the big Tron, and that's when your pyro goes off, or where you do your little hand pose, or whatever they do. Something like that would set you apart from the other wrestling shows on TV who all do their entrances the same way. Just a thought. AEW is supposed to be alternative, right? I used to give TNA all sorts of shit for that when they presented themselves as alternative, and then they brought Hogan and Bischoff in and put the ring to 4 sides. And I'm like, well, you ain't alternative anymore, are you? So AEW probably should think that way as well. Offer something that we don't get everywhere. And WWE right now, frankly, has been a lot better at that because we get occasional shows from them, like those minimalist sets where the crowd goes all the way around, like, Survivor Series was when Punk returned. Those type of sets where it's just a smaller entrance, or like what we saw on Saturday night's main event and some of SummerSlams and Royal Rumbles that come out of the dugout and whatnot. I like the WWE changes that up. And it's just not your straight Tron entrance that we just see 10,000 of per week. Change it up, make it different, offer something different. I think AEW should think about doing something similar with their entrances, just to give their shows, some sort of a unique aspect that we don't see all the time in wrestling. Shit like that. That's what I would try to do. Anyway, I have got to pack up and get out of here now. I am finishing up my very busy Christmas season at work, and then I'll have some time off to dedicate more to the channel, be up here for more live streams. But you're going to see a ton of me. We're going to be here tomorrow watching In Your House Rock Bottom, so join us for that. I'll be here this week, but since it's Christmas, I'm not sure when. We'll be here for World's End next Saturday. I'll have a link for that up as well very soon. We'll be up here a week from tomorrow for another watch-along. Starrcade, I'll have a link up for that. January 6th links, all that stuff is coming to the channel, so make sure you keep an eye out and make sure you stay subscribed. Thank you again for another great year here on the Wingies, another solid year of Winged Eagle podcast. This is going to be our final one of 2024, but we will be back big and strong here in January with probably a little bit different of a look as well, since it's a new year, and looking forward to it, and looking forward to the next few months because they're going to be fun leading into WrestleMania. Thanks again, guys. Have a great rest of your day, great Saturday, great weekend. I will wish you happy holidays, before the holidays get here, because we're going to be here tomorrow. But if this is the last time you're going to see me until the new year, then happy holidays to you. I hope you have a great vacation, great holiday. Spend it with your family. Enjoy some time off, and just enjoy some peace and love, man. You know what I mean? Drink it in, man. You guys have a good one. Great Saturday. I will be talking to you tomorrow for In Your House Rock Bottom. Peace.